And boom, we are live. What's up, everybody? Couple Casuals Podcast, episode number 21. I'm your host, Stefano. And today I am here with a very special guest. Her name is Rebecca. She reached out to me not too long ago and said she wanted to do a little interview and talk about joy, self-development, self-improvement, all that good stuff that we like to talk about here and there on Couple Casuals Podcast. And I said, you know what, Rebecca, maybe we do a little joint interview and we have some fun, and that's exactly what we're going to do today. So for the first, let's say 20, 30 minutes, I'm going to interview you, Rebecca, and then going forward, she's going to switch over and she's going to be the interviewer, and then interview me, and we'll see what we get into. I'm sure we're going to get into a lot of good stuff, so I hope you stick around till the end. Before we get started, I want to give a quick shout out to these beautiful paws on the table here at Candle Hand. We look into them at www.candlehand.com. Also use promo code CC10 for 10% off and free shipping. And lastly, exactly there, check them out. And also, please give a warm look into, to Cameron's Brewing. If you want to have a couple casuals, no pun intended, with your friends, you know what I mean, good time out. Look for them at the LCBO at the bars when you're getting dickered with the fellas or ladies, whatever it may be. Check them out, and you can also reach out to Matt Lawrence on Instagram. He can help you out with everything, guys. I'm going to include everything in the bio just in case I forgot everything. Without further ado, Rebecca, as we tradition here on Couple Casuals, we do a quick salute.
Salute.
There you go.
So pumped, this will be great.
Yeah, just want to keep it nice and close here.
Oh yeah, thanks.
But thanks for coming on. You know what I mean?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. We discussed a little bit prior. We met up and talked recently, and we were talking a lot about self-development and stuff. So I think it would have been, it's awesome. First of all, the conversation itself is awesome. I'm big on it, as you know, and we discussed the differences between kind of men and women and the self-development. And sometimes it's a little bit, there's this connotation or this negative outlook for men, let's say. So that's maybe something that we can get into too. But maybe we can start off with what does self-development mean to you, and when did you encounter it, and when did that point in your life kind of come up?
Holy.
It's a long question, so I'll just drink while you.
There you go. You might need to top up.
I will.
No, so self-development, personal development, all that good stuff, that started for me. Oh my gosh. I would say that Pandora's box really opened up when I had my car accident in 2015.
Wow, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's really when, I've always been a person who was very driven by growth and being uncomfortable and learning and all that kind of stuff. But then after that accident, that really opened the doors to so many things for me. And then I started my career very young, and then all these other things kind of happened. And then I started realizing that I had to unlearn a lot. And then I thought I was so positive and so confident, and then I realized that it was just conditioning.
Okay.
And then I was hiding things and I was masking things. So then I really had to dive in deep and ask myself questions, and it was through therapy, through journaling, through meditation, and just experience, if you will, living alone for so long, going through the motions of life with, whatever happens with people. You lose people, friends, etc., and so on. So yeah, lots has happened along the way, and I'm so grateful for everything. I have so much gratitude for all the suffering, if you will. Someone always said to me, you have to suffer to grow. Shout out to Mitchell for that. But I definitely, I value that so much, and I love being put outside of my comfort zone.
Right, 100%.
So that I can learn.
And I noticed that trend, to be honest with you. There's always this traumatic event or something that happens in a person's life that leads them to either A, go down that self-development, let me figure out what's going on here road, or the other side of it, where maybe it's the more negative side of things, where they indulge in negative things, let's say drugs or alcohol or whatever it may be. I noticed that that's always the commonality in the self-development journey. So when this traumatic event happened to you, what made you take the positive route and say, you know what, I'm going to indulge into this self-development journey, and rather than go down the negative path, because it's very easy to do that, right?
Yeah, I think I can kind of preface it by saying, as human beings, we're very driven by pain and or pleasure, right? Sorry.
Yeah.
So we're driven by pain and pleasure, and so after that kind of happened, I started experiencing more pain than I did pleasure. I wasn't as positive, optimistic, and so on. And then I started discovering that I had all these negative qualities, or I believed all these awful things about myself, and I didn't really understand where that was coming from. And then so many things started surfacing from my childhood to I started questioning my intentions. So that was something that was really big early on, was why am I doing this? What are my intentions behind this? And the intentions were not always pure or coming from a place of self-love. They were coming from a place of wanting validation.
Okay.
And so that was sort of how everything started. And then I started realizing certain things. I was like, okay, give it to me. Tell me what's not good, therapy, whatever, and let's fix it. And let's constantly try to become the next best version of myself.
Right. Yeah. No. 100%. And that's very good, because sometimes we don't always indulge in that perspective, right? There's a lot of the times it's more of the negative way of thinking. But I think that it's becoming more normalized now, like therapy and this sort of thing, that people are starting to understand that just because you start to embrace different avenues of self-improvement, whether it be therapy, journaling, doesn't always need to have like a negative outlook on it. There's not this negative it's changing a bit. You know what I mean? Would you agree?
100%. I think more people are recognizing the need for that self-awareness, and they're recognizing the benefits that come once you push yourself past that pain and that discomfort. And I think a lot of it too is the ego. The ego is such a beautiful thing, and you need that. There are so many positive things about it, but then you have that negative that prevents you from excelling and moving forward. And when you take that step back, it's actually even more liberating to take that chance on yourself.
And I think ego is a good point there. And I think back to what I brought up earlier about the whole male and female perspective on the self-development journey. I think the ego tends to resonate more with men on why they feel like they can't express themselves emotionally, whatever it may be. Like, it's very common within like the masculinity type thing that they're not as willing to be vulnerable and express themselves emotionally, or look into developing themselves emotionally. And I think that's something that we can change, and that it's honestly, there's nothing wrong with improving. There's nothing wrong with seeking help for whatever it may be, even if you just want to get better at whatever it is that you're doing. Because I look at like my own personal journey, and there's two. You got to feel some way. I always thought this. You got to feel some way. So it's either you're gonna feel not good and terrible and not do anything about it and just kind of mask it, or you can feel great and do something about it and really chip away at these things that are bothering you or making you feel inadequate, or whatever it may be. And I think through that, you're able, through like the self-development, you're able to identify those things. It seems like, based on what you were saying, that you kind of knew, or did you already like know when you went through this traumatic experience, did you know already what you needed to work on, or did you have to like work to start, okay, that's one thing I gotta work on, okay, that's one thing I gotta work on, you know what I mean?
I feel like there were certain things I wasn't aware of.
Okay.
But then when everything happened, I was like, oh shit, I gotta deal with this. You know what I mean? Because the door couldn't be closed anymore. It was gone. And I just became so tired of feeling a certain way that I had to make a choice.
Right, exactly.
So the choice is, do you go through this temporary pain for long-term happiness and joy, or do you keep suffering? Because at that point, I lived in this state of victimhood for a long time. And then I developed the awareness. But once I developed that awareness, now the responsibility's on me.
Right, that's a big one.
And so that's the thing, right? Life's about choices. Once you have that awareness, I don't want to say there's no excuses. There's going to be obstacles. It's difficult. You're never going to be perfect. You have to just be consistent as much as you can. But yeah, I had to make a choice. Victimhood, or do what's best for me, and I had to make that.
Do you think our society tends to, I like how you brought up that victimhood, because I think responsibility, personal responsibility and accountability is something we lack in society, and that's probably one of the reasons for, like, let's say our regression and downfall in some certain cases. But do you think that that's something like the victimhood thing? Do you think that's something that we automatically kind of go to in society? Like, people tend to engage with victim mentality primarily, rather than, let's say, accountability and this sort of thing? Do you think that it's very common for people to look at themselves as the victim, rather than saying, okay, I need to pick up my bootstraps, I need to do something about this right now?
I feel like that's a little bit of a controversial question.
Is it? Well, we're on Couple Casuals podcast, so we do.
I want to be very careful with how I articulate this. I think it depends. I think that mentality, I think it depends on your upbringing, the kind of family you have, the kind of circle you have.
Right, that's a big one.
I think traditionally, though, speaking, and I'm sure some people will not agree with this, but misery loves company.
Yes.
It's easy to be in victimhood. It's easy to not believe that you can reach, the level of like Bradley or Tony Robbins, for example. These big public figures.
Shout out to Tony Robbins.
Right, and so I think in many ways, yes, we tend to immediately go to victimhood, but one, it could be because we don't have that awareness,
Right.
or we grew up around people who they were always negative. So how can you know any better? You're doing the best you can with the knowledge you have in that moment.
Right.
But when you have that awareness or you start to question, you get to make a choice. Do you want to break a cycle or do you want to be better?
And it can be controversial because people can look at it like a negative way, but we also look at it like you can do something about it. Like it's not probably the best way forward to look at yourself as a victim in every situation. So when you take when you take accountability for things, it's only going to propel you forward. Whether it may be uncomfortable in the immediate, in the present, right now, but you're sacrificing the present for the future because in the future it's going to pay off, which I think it's done for both of us. So when you put in that work, it will pay. So what are some of the things that you would recommend or you would say to people like in regards to the self-development and finding that, navigating that way through to understand the importance and significance around accountability? What are some of the things that you've done or that you've realized that have helped you along the way?
So I think that self-love obviously is sort of the all-encompassing, thing for everything that you had just mentioned. And I think that that's something that can take years, if not a lifetime, to find. I can tell you that personally, for the first time in a very long time, I finally live in a place of 90% self-love. And I think that people give up what they want most for what they want now. And so for those types of things, it's really honing in on what you value and understanding who you are as a person. Forget everything you've been taught for a second. Ask yourself what you want, who you want to show up as. What do you value and how are you showing up in life? What makes up your authentic self? I think if you are living as authentically as you can, you will have that self-love. Because while we live in this imperfect world, obviously, people are going to bring you down. People are going to tell you you're not good enough. If you believe in yourself and you're so sure about what that is to your core, it doesn't matter what someone is going to say most of the time because you get to go to sleep knowing that you're good in who you are. So I think authenticity is really the key to self-love. But there's so many factors to that.
Right.
It's what do you value? What do you like? Who are the people in your life? What value do they add to your life? Just there are so many things. Journaling helps. Meditating. This looks different for everyone, but it's doing more of what brings you joy and what gets you connected to yourself.
Right, and when you say self-love, like just to kind of break it down even further, you mean like just as simple as just loving yourself, like literally, right? Exactly
as you are because you're enough simply because you exist. That is something that I couldn't wrap my head around for years. Like years of therapy, it was always we got self-love and authenticity. I'm like what does that mean? I'm trying to love myself.
Right.
And it means you love yourself with or without makeup. It means you love yourself on a bad day. You love yourself because you're doing the best you can. But you're enough, not because of what you have or what you do, but because of who you are.
Right.
So it's in correlation to that living authentically. Because if you really are sure about who you are, it really doesn't matter what anyone thinks because everyone's journey is different.
Right. And I think understanding this, because you say that to somebody who's in a situation where they're not really feeling the best, right? They're maybe in a negative situation, so they're going to say to you like, well, it's hard to love myself right now. But I think there's not something tangible that you think that you need to grab onto. I think it's understanding that you are more than you think. That there is room for way more development. And this is something I actually wanted to mention right away from the beginning of the podcast, guys. Just because, like, let's say sometimes you see me talking about personal development, all these things, and I'm saying these things to you, it doesn't mean that I'm coming from a place, and maybe you can agree to this too, Rebecca. It's not that we're coming from a place of like, we're higher than, or we figured it out, it's done now. No, not at all. I'm doing it exactly at this moment, developing myself, working on myself too, as I'm talking to you. And that's why I think like conversations like this can be so useful for people, right? Because they may be in a place where they're like, I don't really love myself that much, but then if they see you know, like people like us that are doing that right now too, they're like, okay, well, they're just like normal people doing it too. Like maybe I can figure this out. Maybe I can find a way to like make it better. You know what I mean?
I think the greatest act of self-love is honestly living in your truth, speaking your truth, because whatever happens after that is truly none of your business. It doesn't matter what anyone says. Having gratitude
It's a big
is
one.
huge account and choice.
Yeah.
And being willing to confront your demons and pushing past it. It's painful and it sucks and it's not comfortable. But you have to believe that the universe has your back, and on the other side of that pain is a life beyond your wildest dreams. And when I say that, I don't mean, you're going to become a millionaire. I don't mean something tangible. I mean internal joy, genuine joy.
Yeah, and you must be patient as well, right?
Absolutely.
Like you said earlier, this is for life. This is for life. There's this thing I read every day, and I always talk about it too. It's called the Daily Stoic. Sometimes I post it on my Instagram story, right? And they're very useful because one of the main motifs throughout the teachings of the Stoicism is focus on what you can control, not what you can't. And that's like a testament to kind of what you were just saying there. Focus on what you can control immediately right now. Immediately right now in this present. What can I control? Okay, I'm going to this event and something may happen, or this I can't control that, so forget about it. All I can control is that maybe I'm going to make myself available to be there on time. I'm going to make sure I'm organized, to make sure everything that happens from now into that event that's giving me anxiety or whatever it may be, it's going to be as easygoing as possible. So focus on only what you can control, not what you can't. Because if you can't control it, you can't change it, right? That's a big one. That's a big one that people tend to not really think about too much. Like anxiety is stressing about something that never even happened yet. That's what it is, 101, right? So you can't control it, don't waste time on it. But there was an event that happened in the past couple of years. Obviously, we went through lockdowns and COVID, and a lot of people, I think, started to engage with this self-development way of living or improving yourselves. Was this something that maybe it wrapped up for you again, or was it a time that you looked inside to kind of look, okay, what else can I work on, and that sort of thing? Was it a time of improvement for you?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would say it accelerated a lot, but I think it did that for a lot of people simply for the purposes of where were the distractions. You can't go clubbing, can't go to bars, everything's shut down for that period of time. So you have no choice but to be stuck with yourself. And there's nothing worse than being trapped with your own thoughts. And so that's when you can really develop that awareness. So definitely, I think that
was something that helped you a lot. Yeah, I did too. We walked a lot. Me and my friends, that's what we did. We walked and talked a lot. Shout out to the boys there. We really spent a lot of time, and I think that's a testament to what you were saying earlier about the company you keep. There's an old saying you are who your closest 5 friends are,
100%.
right? And that's a big part of it. Do you have an immediate circle that are sharing the same type of vision as you, and the whole self-development and self-improvement type thing? Do you share that with a lot of your friends?
Absolutely. I would say for sure, the one closest to me would be my sister. She's my ride or die. I learned so much from her. And so we grow a lot together. I mean, she's my best friend as well. But while I do have other friends, I would say if you can find even one person or those people to lean on for those things, to reach out, journal, walk, do whatever it is, you will constantly be uplifted because you won't always be motivated, but you do have to be disciplined. But equally, there are some people who you might have a friend who isn't necessarily into self-love or personal development. It doesn't mean they're not a good friend. It doesn't mean they don't show up for you in other ways. You have some friends for different things, but I think a huge part of that is while you might not have, your bestie that you're calling up, you can create your circle in other ways. Look at social media. There's people like you, people like me, people like Tony Robbins, all these different people talking about this stuff.
Right, yeah.
So I think if you want to really hone in on, your own personal development or what it is, take a look at these people and watch them.
Right.
Develop your personal avatar. Who do you want to become? How do you want to show up as? How do you want to feel? And how do you want to make other people feel? Watch Tony Robbins, watch Bradley, watch Ed Milet, watch all these different people. I like this, I like this, I like this. Now how do I embody that and how do I emanate that same energy?
Yes.
So you find what resonates with people. So they might not be your best friend, but you can create a circle, if you will, by reaching out.
Yeah, and our access to information is, when has it ever been this accessible?
Exactly.
We got podcasts, we got YouTube, we got, unlike some people like to look at it negatively, but I've learned a lot about myself and about psychology and about a lot of different things from YouTube. So I don't know, I wouldn't be one of the quick critics of that, but yeah, there's a lot of this information for us available. And like one of the things that really helped me was, I think it all started for me around like 2016 when I found out about The Secret, and like I started reading like the Law of Attraction, which I'm sure that you did too. And these things you take with a grain of salt, obviously, and it's not like, what people need to understand is things are not magical, and I think it's also a testament to what we were saying. You have to be patient, you have to stick with it. It's for life, it's every day. That's the thing, it's exhausting. It's not going to be like, okay, I'm going to work my ass off on becoming a better person or whatever it may be for a year and then I'm good. Then it's going to be all good. No, this is for life. It's a patient, long journey. But when I encountered The Secret, then through there, all these things opened up. So, and you'd be surprised, like your friends you might rub off on your friend that's not exactly in that whole development and self-improvement stage, right? Have you ever seen that, like where you start to radiate and kind of rub off on one of your friends, where you're indulging in this like engagement of self-development consistently, that it kind of rubs off on them in a positive way?
Totally.
Yeah, right.
100%. But at the same time too, you have something to learn from every single person you meet.
Yep.
Every single person. You know, so it's such a beautiful thing. Personal development, it is lifelong. It's not linear. It looks different for everyone. But the truth is everyone has the potential to reach their highest self.
Mm-hmm.
But potential is nothing without action.
Oh, that's a good one. Let's clip that.
So 100%, like it's nothing without action. I know for me, my biggest fear in life is not reaching my highest potential.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know, like as of right now, I was thinking about it today. I sort of had this epiphany. I went on my walk. I was, recharging in nature, and I was sort of walking and meditating at the same time. You don't always have to close your eyes to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized, I said, knock on wood, if something happened to me tomorrow, I might not have necessarily accomplished everything in a tangible way that I wanted, but I genuinely feel so proud of myself for how far I've come on an internal soul level, that I would be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a place that I never, ever, ever imagined myself feeling. Because before I would just say, it's not clicking. Why aren't I getting it? I must be dumb. It's not clicking. And then a series of things sometimes happen, and then you realize that you're walking in those steps and things click.
Mm-hmm.
So potential is nothing without action. And then that realization for me actually was that my consistency and my action has allowed me to reach this place.
Right.
And now I'm only going up. I have no desire to go down.
Right, and that's something to celebrate, first of all. So
Mm-hmm.
big salute, as we say
Thank
here
you.
on Couple Casuals podcast. But last question here before we switch the roles. Do you think faith is a big part of self-development? Like, it doesn't necessarily need to have a religious connotation to it, but like,
100%.
do you think it is? And what does that look like for you?
For me, having faith, having trust, I think you just have to believe that things will work out to your highest good. They will work out for your highest good. They will work out exactly as they're supposed to. I believe in divine timing. I think, you can't tell someone what to do. You can offer your advice,
Mm-hmm.
but everyone has to realize things on their own time. And you have to believe that whatever's happening to you is happening for you.
That's the law of attraction.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's really trusting that process and letting go of the outcome. I found actually over the last 2 months, I've been sticking to this, I can't even think. I've been doing this meditation. It's not very long. It's a guided meditation. It's
Right.
still 15 minutes.
Okay.
Anyways, I can send it to you. You can put it in the link in your comment. But it's basically about connecting to your higher self and letting go of outcomes. And he walks you through, actually meeting your higher self and channeling what message it is that they have for you. And it's letting go of outcomes. When you detach, you can actually be present. So something I've learned is actually practicing being present will change your life. It's not easy,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe you have to ship yourself off to, somewhere down south by yourself. Maybe you have to go to a forest by yourself. Maybe you have to practice meditation. But practicing being present, you release so much anxiety. You don't stress out as much. Life is not supposed to be, it's supposed to have ups and downs, but you're not supposed to keep, you're not supposed to feel this state of chaos all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's not healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So you just have to release,
Mm-hmm. I think it's the balance between, Jordan Peterson says it, order and chaos.
Exactly.
Like chaos is inevitable in life too, right? But it's finding that way to offset it, right?
Yes.
And I think that's a testament to the self-development part, is like understanding these things, like
Mhm.
thoroughly understanding these things, and also understanding that it is for life and you have to be patient. Because in a lot of things, Rebecca, I noticed that people are very unpatient. They're not patient. They want it now in our culture, they want it in our society, they want it now, and if it's not going to be now, then forget it. But that's one thing, guys, is just really be patient, crack at it daily, little bit at a time, incremental improvements. There's real power in that. But yeah, it was really nice interviewing Rebecca. So if you want to take it now and see the questions you got for me.
Amazing. Okay, so I want to know more about your personal development story. You
Mhm.
asked me when mine started. When did yours start?
Perfect question. Perfect question to start off with. Sorry, guys, I just needed to get a little water there, mixing the water. You know how we do a couple casuals. But for me, it started, I think, in like everything. Like it starts with with an event, with an experience, right? You go through these development stages in your life, and I think it was more in my early 20s, I would say, and then I had to start figuring some things out, and I started to indulge in the more of the negative side of things, like partying, going out, doing those sort of things, not really taking stock of the things that I needed to that were more priority, let's say. So you spend a little time dancing on that side of the fence, and you realize, you say, okay, this is not working. So let me start to try something else. And that's when I started to, actually, funny enough, it was Conor McGregor, the UFC fighter. And now he's maybe not the most positive guy as an influence, some may say, but for me, he was, at that time, I was really indulging in a lot of his journey and stuff, and one of the things he was talking about a lot was the law of attraction, and the way he would speak was very interesting to me. He was very captivating in his speech, and the way he would talk a lot about the law of attraction and how things happen for you, and he doesn't have superstitions and work hard and this kind of thing, and I was really resonating with that message. So I started to look further into the law of attraction, and then from the law of attraction, I then I started listening to podcasts and stuff, and then because I would look up the law of attraction online, and then I would see podcasts, and then it just took me through this whole of like self-development, because the related videos, and then I started watching full lectures online, and then over time I really started to just acquire this arsenal of intellects, let's say, and I just started to really resonate with these people, guys like Jordan Peterson, some of the guests that Joe Rogan would bring on. A lot of these people really provide me with a lot of help, and stoicism too. And then from there, I just started to get a little bit better, and a little bit better, and then it kind of leads me to like where I am now when it comes to like podcasting and becoming a better communicator, and just being humble enough to understand that you can always get better. And I think so it was around that time, 2015, 16.
We should clip that whole thing.
Should we clip that
whole thing?
Thank you, guys.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
So, forgive me if I articulate this not in the best way. So, as a man,
Mm-hmm.
right, you going through this personal development,
Mm-hmm.
what is that like for you?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've been very fortunate enough that a lot of my friends are very humble when it comes to that too. I have a lot of very diverse friends. Let's say some of them that are not really too engaged with the whole self-development thing, and they don't hate on it, but they just don't really. They're more of like they want to watch football on Sunday and stuff, right? They're not interested in that, and fair enough for the people that do, right?
Football's cool.
Yeah, exactly, right? They want to do what they want to do, but I got some of my other friends that I really resonate with. We really are not very invested in other people's opinions, especially modern day. Maybe before we were, but not as much now. And we all kind of share that wanting to get better mentality. So for me, I never really had that immediate judgment from people around me if I wanted to talk about emotions. Actually, we always do. We go on walks, like I said earlier, and during COVID, and we talk about these things with each other, and we bounce ideas off each other, and we be totally vulnerable, talk about how much of a pussy we are, whatever it may be. We're not worried too much about the judgment of it. I think a lot of that reason why I'm able to express myself like that is because of my friends and how supportive and how in alignment they are with me. So you are who your 5 closest friends are. So I think that's a big part of it too. But I always just wanted to get better, and I figured you have to feel some way in this life, and it's up to you on how you feel. You can feel like inadequate and not too good, or you can feel like a big boss and like somebody who has some confidence and can actually do things and can get better and is humble. So I chose that route. I didn't always, but I did eventually.
See, it's interesting because when you think of even, masculinity, it's something that comes up a lot. There's, it's everywhere on the internet, and there are so many different opinions on it. And I think it's quite interesting when you have this masculine energy where you can still be a big boss and do all these things and be a man, but have that emotional intelligence, being able to communicate, being able to be humble, and have an ego when necessary, and know when it's time to put it away. That's like a next level kind of thing that I think more men nowadays are starting to channel and really recognize that that's cool.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's probably more captivating and intriguing than the alternative. I think that because I would pride myself. I think I'm very competent when it comes physically. When it becomes mentally and intellectually, I think I'm pretty confident when it comes to that, and I think I'm going to get better at it too. But even with all that being said, I still have my emotional side of me where I can talk to you about anything. You know what I mean? I think that's not a negative. I think that's actually another tool on your tool belt. So I think it's another asset to your arsenal. So it's something to really consider for the guys listening, for the men listening. Is like, don't develop yourself, become more competent, and learn about yourself and your vulnerabilities. And you can, with that being said, you can still engage with the emotional side of things that people tend to think is more feminine. It's not at all, because at the end of the day, if it comes down to it, we can have a fight and we'll figure it out. I'm joking.
No, but at the same time too, even if someone's worried about it being feminine is such a beautiful thing. It's a power in itself.
Should be celebrated.
Right, and so when you can have that balance between a feminine and masculine energy, that's a whole different conversation, but there's nothing wrong with vulnerability. Vulnerability is key. No one is saying to go dump and pour your feelings 24/7, but it's having that communication and then building those partnerships with your friends, your partner, whatever it might be, with strangers completely.
Yeah, but vulnerability even being like having conversations like this. Like some men won't want to do that. They won't want to engage in that.
And they're uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, for sure. So it comes down to choice. It comes down to, who do you want to show up as? Are you going to choose your ego? You feel uncomfortable either way.
Exactly, I think what's the saying here? Let me try to remember this. You have to become comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yes.
And the more you seek to be comfortable, the more you will be uncomfortable, and that is true. Because a lot of the times, we do. When I started this podcast, for example, Rebecca, I was very uncomfortable. Even sometimes I am, because it's you want to make sure everything goes good and this and that. But the more I engage with that uncomfortability, the better I feel. So why not suffer for that little bit of uncomfortability,
Amen.
And then ultimately feel better, and then you're improving the skill, becoming a better communicator, whatever it may be, whatever the thing is that's making you feel uncomfortable.
Well, for what it's worth, your energy is very calm. It's very present. So you're doing well. It's good. You're natural. You're good.
I appreciate that. Because I spent a lot of time trying to develop that.
There you go.
Thank you.
Well, and that's the thing too, right? Even earlier you mentioned alignment. Alignment, authenticity, all that is so important. I think as well as, being okay and no longer valuing being understood. I think that's a huge part of it, especially on anyone's personal development journey.
Right.
Because only you have to understand that. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that a lot of the time we're reluctant to do things, or we're reluctant to engage with certain, whether it be challenges or whatever, because we're going to care what people think, right? And that needs to just be thrown out the window, because it's just, you can't control what other people think, right? Am I staying online to your question? What was the question?
No, it's good.
Right?
It's going in. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah. So basically, just really understanding that you cannot control the other people's opinions. And I talked to you about this last time. That was something that I value a lot. I would be concerned, and it would be very obstructive to my growth. It's like worrying and thinking about, what's this person gonna think? What's this person gonna think if I do this or do that? But then you really start to, I think maybe it comes with getting older or whatever, maybe, or the self-development too, you realize that stuff actually doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter, because what's the worst that's going to happen? That's what you always say. What's the worst that's going to happen? They're going to maybe talk some ish about you for a couple minutes or whatever, maybe in a group chat or something. Oh, look at Stefano, he's such an idiot on his podcast, whatever. Like, whatever it is that you're overthinking, it's very, very minuscule to the reality of the actual situation. So once you confront that, on the other end of it, it's you're winning.
And why are people talking about you? Why are you becoming people's coffee talk the next morning?
Mm-hmm.
Is it coming from a place of jealousy? What is the intention behind that?
Mm-hmm.
If it's not coming from a good place, if they're not cheering you on, they're not bringing you up, their opinion genuinely doesn't matter.
Facts.
Because you are taking the time to put yourself out there when they are probably the ones unwilling because they're too scared.
Right, and that's a lot of the time where the haters come in, right? Like people who are going to engage. Like I rarely, this is the honest truth, ever have anything bad to say about anybody. I have this mentality like give everybody respect until they give you a reason not to. I think that's a good golden rule.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody deserves respect as humans to humans. Until they give you a reason not to, then you can sort it out or do whatever it is that you need to do, disengage, whatever it may be with that person. But their opinions don't really matter because you're on your own journey. You're only going to improve, and the less you value others' opinions, the better it will be for you. So I think that's something worth outlining. It's a great question, yeah.
Absolutely. What is there anything that you've learned over the years specifically, or what would be your takeaway on personal development that you want people to know?
I think my takeaway. Okay, let's go deep in the brain here because I want a good answer for this. So I think one of the main things, if I really think about when I put all this work on becoming a better communicator and becoming a better listener and all these different things, I think underneath that you're able to become, I think it's to your point too, like the self-love, this will fall under that umbrella, is like you're able to be more of who you actually are. Because once you start to acquire these skills and you develop personally, you start to be able to be more comfortable with who you are, and then ultimately what happens is you're able to really grow as an individual. And then you start to realize like, wow, a year ago I don't know if I would have saw myself doing that. I didn't expect that. But then through little incremental improvements, you really start to see the blossoming of your individuality, of who you actually are. Through that self-development and the patience, you start to become yourself more creatively, whatever it may be, more comedically, more whatever, all the things that you were kind of reluctant to engage with because you valued all the wrong things like other people's opinions, it kept you back. But through that indulgence of self-development, you really start to, you're more than you think. You really start to see, oh wow, maybe I can do this, or maybe this can be achievable. So it's worth the work. That's my advice.
That whole last 30 seconds, that's it. That's the golden ticket, people.
That's the golden ticket.
That's it. What is one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self starting this journey?
Well, obviously we always say I wish I would started a little bit earlier. I wish I would have gotten into the podcasting and stuff a little bit earlier, because it was some making videos and stuff. I have footage from when I'm young. I always loved it. I think we talked about that last time too. Mm-hmm. I always loved it. So if I would give advice to my younger self, it would be, brother, just go for it, man. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about this. Don't worry about that. Stop worrying. Stop overthinking. Stop overthinking. That's a big one. Mm-hmm. Stop overthinking. It's only going to slow you down in this life. And don't care what people think. And sometimes, even if it's, sometimes we want to make our parents really happy too. We don't want to disappoint the people we love, our parents, our friends. But if the alternative to that is you suffering in your own silence and not exploring who it is that you can be, then maybe that letdown for that parent or friend is warranted, because you as yourself and your development is paramount to everything else. So that's my advice to my younger self. Stop overthinking. Stop engaging with immediate glorification, whatever it may be, whether it's partying or this may be. You can have fun, but all in moderation, and really start to indulge more right away, earlier on, into that whole self-development type of living. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And even, what do you think of the level of self-development? I know you've got there are so many people that just, it can come across as very intense for a lot of people. Yeah. So at the bare minimum, what would you say? It would be stop overthinking.
Stop overthinking. That's a big one. Mm-hmm. Stop overthinking. I would say take accountability. I have to include that, because mm-hmm. no matter what happens, let me repeat that, no matter what happens, even if you think it's not necessarily your fault or it's why me, you have to own it. Once you own it and once you make it your own, and trust me when I'm saying this to you guys, I'm also saying it to myself, so I have to remember to say that, because I don't want to come off I'm not coming from a pedestal here. I'm saying it in the most humble way to myself as I speak to you, because I think it's useful. But yeah, you have to take accountability. personal responsibility, scheduling and finding your 100%. I think these are big things. And then also one of the things I wanted to mention too is like self-development is mind, body, spirit. So exercise too. I know people hate when they hate that, but that's a big part of my life too. If I don't exercise, if I don't do things that suck physically, my mental game isn't as good. I don't exercise, I don't work out for aesthetics. Sometimes that comes with it, but I do it for mental growth. I do it for my mental capacity. So hopefully I covered the question. Yeah.
Absolutely,
All
and then some.
And then some. You know what I mean? And a little coffee on the side. That never hurt nobody.
Oh, I would love a little coffee on the side. But
Yeah. Sorry, I don't have an espresso. Next time, espresso martinis. That's my new thing now. I love espresso martinis.
So do I. They're so good.
Best of both worlds.
They're the best. Absolute best. Can have a couple of those. No, that's awesome. Self-development is just something I feel like more and more people are finally becoming aware of.
Yeah.
Right? People, it's such a liberating and beautiful thing when you can have awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Once you have that awareness, everyone around you, most people want you to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
They want you to succeed. They want to see you happy, and your energy shows that. It's what radiates. So if you're happy and you're feeling joy, that's what people will feel.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference between you being approachable. That's the difference between maybe you attracting a certain kind of person, friendship, stranger at a network. It doesn't matter. If you're miserable and you're unhappy, it's so sad. Like, I genuinely have compassion for people experiencing that in general. But on the other side, there's just so much more, and it's okay to take that chance on yourself.
And that starts from a choice.
Yes.
That's what I wanted to say, because it's true. You have to make, that's to your point, because that's one of the things you outlined throughout this podcast is
Always.
choice. Once you make that choice, you have to stick to it, obviously. Make that choice, whatever it may be. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. You make that choice, stick with it, make it achievable and reasonable enough that it's not overwhelming, whatever it may be. Let's say it's a physical goal that you want to meet. Don't I'm going to work out 5 days this week, this and that. Make it reasonable, and then you make that choice, and then through that choice, all the lovely stuff that you just articulated comes to fruition, happens.
Yeah, if you get to live another day and you get to wake up tomorrow, that's another day that you get to make a different choice. And that's what it comes down to.
It does, yeah.
So, and whether that even looks like, you mentioned, your 5 friends, that's who you are essentially. People that want you to succeed. If you need help, ask for it. If you need an accountability partner, let's say for exercise, tell them to whip your ass into shape.
Yep.
And to hold you accountable, and let somebody hold your hand who's willing, as long as you're equally willing to put in the work, until you're ready to let go of the grip a little bit.
That's why it's good sometimes. Like, it's common. Like in my friend group, like we'll tell each other like straight up, like, no, that's wrong. Like, oh, you shouldn't be doing that, or we'll have conversations. But I think that's important too, to have people that you can be authentic with. To your point earlier, be real, be authentic, even if sometimes it's uncomfortable. Like, let's say one of your friends is starting to gain weight physically, sometimes that can be a very uncomfortable conversation to have. But if you value health, and you value health primarily, forget about aesthetically pleasing or whatever, maybe. If you value health, if you notice your friends starting to get into go into that trend, you're not a good friend if you're not real. You have to be real. And even if it happens to be uncomfortable for you to have that conversation, because it can be, you have to be real. And sometimes those uncomfortable conversations are the most powerful ones.
But even sort of an add-on to that is when you're maybe building new relationships, or you have existing friends, maybe you've grown and you're vibrating at a different frequency than they are, right? Friendship is an exchange of energy. Everything. You giving me, this glass is an exchange of energy. When everything is an exchange, right? How does someone make you feel after you see them? Do they suck your energy? Do you feel drained? Or do you feel uplifted? That's another tell too, how authentic you can be with them.
That's a good one. That's a really good one, because I tend to resonate with that. Well, I don't know, call it whatever you want, but if I go into a room and there's a lot of negativity, or if I meet with somebody and they're very negative all the time, I really absorb that. And sometimes I look at that like a flaw, because again, I can't control another person's energy, but if you're around them and they're really starting to bring you down, the way they communicate, the way they the way they talk about other people, the way they just, their overall dialogue and their energy is just very draining. They call it a succubus sometimes. I think that I eat that up. I tend to eat that up, and I don't know how good that is, because like I said, you can't control that, but it's true. You want to try your best to surround yourself with people who are going to radiate positive energy and provide some sort of not even just utility, but like a positive influence on you too. That because at the end of the day, Rebecca, we're not always going to be at our best, and that's why I think to your point about gratitude is to be grateful during those times that suck as well, because I think that's really the most powerful time that you need to be grateful. And I think journaling helped you with that too. Go through rough times, I'm still journaling, thank you so much, blah, 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 you're talking to yourself, whatever it may be. But being grateful in the times of struggle is where the power comes in, not when everything's good. Oh yeah, everything's good, I'm so grateful today. And then when everything goes bad, you're like, why me, this and that? No, that's not how you do it. You have to be grateful all the time, no matter what, because no matter what, it can always be worse. That's
absolutely. You're enough because you exist now. You're enough, what you have is enough now. It's not a matter of, oh, I'll be good enough when. There's no when, it's right now. Your existence matters, your value matters right in this present moment.
Yeah, that's a really good one. That's a really good one.
It's who you are and how you show up, period. End of the day, showing up as authentically as you can and having compassion. You've developed these qualities, you've acquired these skills, and now you get to share that. This has become part of who you are and your gifts, and you're fortunate enough to have put in that work and can share this with your audience.
Yeah.
And then it's about having, people like us, or in general, us just having compassion for everyone else and just try being a light and guiding them. Unfortunately, you can't help people that don't want to be helped.
Yep.
But if they do, and you've come this far, you have to think of the people that have helped you along your way. And it's time to do the same, to step up.
And I think that's probably one of the more interesting parts, because probably a lot when people thought, and again, I do engage with a lot of the comedic type of material for the podcast and stuff too, but then every once in a while, like I'll have these nuggets of self-improvement and stoicism and all these things that I bet you some people that knew me and stuff would be like, I didn't know that he was like really into that. I didn't see that side of him. Every time I see him, we're having a good time, we're partying, or whether he's a very outgoing guy, he's extroverted, he's funny. I didn't know that he was so indulged in this whole self-development and this type of mentality, and I think that's again another tool to your tool belt. So when a viewer sees this, they get to see that side of you. That's the beautiful thing about podcasts and creating content and these sorts of things. You start to see all the different angles of an individual and the good, bad, and the ugly.
Totally.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Okay, so to wrap this up, then let's go. Top 3. How do I phrase this? Top 3 things you value most about personal development, or people let me try again. Top 3 things you value most, or tips you think people should know for personal development, and go.
Top 3, I hate to list things, because they don't put you on the spot.
4, 5, whatever you want.
Okay,
Your top.
No, that's fine, okay. So top 3 things that I value the most about self-development. Number 1, being able to express yourself creatively, comedically, whatever it may be. And through your self-development is where you're really able to find that out. So I think that's one thing. I think the people that it engages with it, like how did this whole conversation come about? Because you saw that I was engaged with this sort of way of thinking and stuff, so it led to this. So that's a beautiful thing too, meeting new people that are on similar journeys. And I think lastly, the joy that you get from it. I know that's a word that you love. So maybe I'm going to throw that in there. The joy that you get from suffering, the immediate suffering for the future reward. So there's a saying, you sacrifice the present for the future rather than sacrifice the present for the future rather than sacrificing the future for the present. Because if we want to indulge in the negative things in life, like drugs and alcohol and stuff, you're sacrificing your present right now. You're sacrificing, the future for the present right now, because you want to indulge and you want to feel good right now. I want to do all these good things right now. I'm having fun right now, but then you will pay the consequences for that. And the alternative, you suffer right now and go through these self-development stages and encounter all this uncomfortability and all these things that are not very immediately fun, but for the ultimate future reward. So I hope I covered it.
Amen.
There
you go.
There is one last segment that I want to get into on Couple Casuals podcast, so we'll end it off here. This will be the last thing. I call it Salute. Salute is the final segment on Couple Casuals podcast, where I give an opportunity to the guest to kind of just give a little end off here, Send us off on a little cheers, as we'd like to say. So that's
a little cheers.
Yeah, just whatever you like. You just, a little like salute, we call it, like a little final saying, whatever it may be.
Okay. You're enough, and you got this, period.
Let's go.
Cheers.
Salute.
Salute.
Before we sign off here, Rebecca, tell them where to find you.
You can find me on Instagram at @BBNobrega and on YouTube. So I look forward
What's
to...
your YouTube tag?
It's just my name,
Okay.
Rebecca Nobrega. That's
Alright.
it. Super simple.
guys, I'll put everything in the comments. I hope you
Yeah.
enjoyed that conversation. I think it was very useful, and it was a great time, Rebecca. Thank you so
Likewise,
much.
thank you. You're a smart man.
I appreciate it. Likewise,
Yeah.
you're a smart woman. So cheers, guys. I love anybody else. Until next time. Salute.